What up, everybody? And welcome back to Tale of the Tape. Brought to you by Gym Bag Entertainment. As always, I'm your host, Craig. I'm here with my boy.
Your Octagon ophthalmologist this week. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So
everybody needs an eye doctor after that.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So, man, this weekend's been pretty crazy. I mean, this week has been pretty crazy. We're supposed to get a nice week next week, but with snowing, you know, it was a pretty rough day today for all you
out here in New England.
Yeah, dealing with that snow. It was rough today. I work outside. It was not fun.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into the news of the week. Manel Kape is out for his bout on, I think, next week. Alex Perez steps in. An interesting piece of information. This is in 4 years, the 4 years that he's been in the UFC, This is the 9th bout cancellation.
Jeez.
But, coincidentally, only 3 of them he's pulled out of.
Wow.
He's had fighters
That's an insane
injured.
stat.
Yeah, insane
Wow.
stat. 6 fights have been canceled due to the other fighter. This is only his personal 3rd cancellation.
Crazy. Makes you look terrible overall when it's not really your fault.
Exactly.
I mean, 3 cancellations in that long isn't bad, you know, things happen. But wow, that's crazy.
It's insane. And so
great fighter too, and a guy I love to see.
And I mean, his thing is legitimate. He tore a cartilage in his rib.
Eesh.
Yeah, he couldn't move for a week.
Yeah.
He had surgery. It went well, and he's expecting to get back as soon as possible. So it's not like he dropped out because of a hangnail.
Yeah, no, that's something I dealt with personally. Yeah. It's terrible.
I can imagine.
It's worse than a fracture because the cartilage separates between your ribs, you got like 2 ribs moving independently. You can't breathe, can't talk.
I kind of feel for Manel Kape. I feel like he's a guy who at this point would have already fought for the title.
Probably should have.
Every 2 steps he takes forward, he's taking a step or 2 back.
Terrible.
And I feel like he's gonna become one of those people that nobody cares about. And which will eliminate him from title contention.
Yeah, exciting fighter, champion from Ryzen, the failed organization from Japan there.
Okay.
And great fighter. So he's only fought good fighters.
One of the fighters who pulled out on him was actually Alexander Pantoja.
Yeah.
So I mean, the man's got to get it figured out, but hopefully he'll have something coming up soon enough, and we'll get to see him in the octagon because he definitely is a guy who deserves a title shot.
Yeah.
But you got to fight to get it.
Yeah, so. you gotta get some wins. Yeah.
Charles Oliveira has recently said that Conor McGregor is the only person who could derail him from a title shot. By that meaning, he would hold off from fighting for the title if it meant he could fight Conor McGregor.
Okay. I think that's, money based.
100%.
It's still the biggest draw in mixed martial arts to fight Conor, the biggest purse. Charles got a baby on the way from what I read recently.
Okay.
He just had a gender reveal. He's got a son on the way.
That's cool.
So,
Charlie Jr.
wants that money.
He definitely does. The only problem I have with this is he planning to go to 170? Because I know Conor can't get down to 155.
Right, probably not.
Absolutely not. And can he? Would he even want to fight at 170? I know when he was supposed to fight. I mean, technically he is supposed to fight Michael Chandler, and I know that's probably going to be at 170. But he wanted it to be at 185.
Yeah.
So.
Which Charles probably not a 170 guy. Honestly, he's not that huge, but. I don't know. Sounds like a money fight.
100% a money fight.
But I don't care for Conor. To come back.
Not at all.
Whatever.
We're not even excited for the Michael Chandler fight.
Yeah, because when it seems like a real possibility, maybe I'll get excited for a Conor fight.
And the question is, if he fights Michael Chandler and loses, how much of a draw is he anymore? He hasn't fought in a long time. He has mostly losses in his most recent UFC bouts. So.
Yeah, you come back from the big layoff and lose to a guy like Chandler. What's that do for your legacy? I don't know if it's smart.
Yeah.
He should probably just stay retired.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, congrats to Oliveira on his son, and
absolutely.
hopefully he gets
to
the
his
money he
future
wants.
endeavors.
Yeah, I think maybe he's like, I've had the belt, I just need some money now.
Exactly. Dana White announces that Whitaker will fight Chimaev for obviously number one contendership.
Yeah.
And this is an exciting bout.
Oh, yeah.
But how does it look for Chimaev?
I think with a win, it gives you immediate title shot. I think that's the case when you beat Robert Whitaker.
Absolutely.
I think it doesn't look so easy. Like, okay, the Usman fight really, solidified Chimaev, showed his wrestling really is elite.
Although
but we're talking about a natural welterweight on 10 days notice,
and was winning the third round.
Right.
And a lot of people say, had it been a 5-round bout, it might have gone the other way.
And Kamaru Usman, notoriously slow starter.
Yeah.
Anyways, been fighting championship fights for years, so he's probably always in the 5-round mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Whitaker would turn on the gas a little more. Yeah, he's a real middleweight.
Correct. Correct. And is the toughest opponent that I think Chimaev's faced. Like, I don't know how a fight at 185, a fight between Usman and Robert Whitaker would look.
Right.
But, I mean, I think about the last fight between him and Izzy. And a lot of people will say he won that fight.
Right.
And a lot of people say Izzy won that fight. But that was probably one of Izzy's toughest title matches, fights in general.
Yeah.
And Chimaev didn't have an easy fight against the likes of Gilbert Burns.
Right.
So I think this could be tough.
Robert Whitaker with a stellar performance against Costa last time out, who Costa might have looked his best that he looked in a while too.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing is it's the biggest and strongest opponent he's had so far. I think that's the biggest tell.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's tough, but a win over Whitaker not only solidifies you as the boogeyman, especially if it's a big win and not just a split decision. But even in a split decision, it takes away any doubt anybody had about your capabilities.
Yeah.
And not that a loss completely derails you, but it definitely takes you out of the title contention for the time being.
And destroys your hype completely, And
now it shows you can't handle that top.
And if Whitaker gets the win, maybe it puts him right at number one contendership,
I can't imagine that it wouldn't, which actually...
Unless he's got to fight the likes of maybe Sean Strickland or, But
which,
I don't know.
I mean...
which I want to hear a fight booked for Strickland, too.
Yeah, with that middleweight division, one of the biggest, elephants in the room, for lack of a better word, is Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
So,
where does he sit?
Sean Strickland had the most dominant win against Israel that anybody has ever had or seen. And then he loses in a fight that a lot of people, including us, would say that he won.
Probably deserves the rematch for sure,
And so you would think he would get the immediate rematch due to not only his popularity, the fact that a lot of people thought he won the fight, and the fact that he was the most dominant victor over Izzy. I say that even with the win of Alex Pereira. I mean, Alex Pereira got the TKO, but some people will say that, that the ref might have stopped it a little too soon.
Possibly.
And however you feel about it, it was Strickland took him out for five rounds and almost finished him as well.
Made him confused.
Yeah. So I think that he deserved the title shot, but it looks like Izzy is gonna get to face DDP, and that's gonna be in Perth at 305. And a lot of people feeling a little salted about that.
And I can understand. I don't know. I don't know if his body of work as the middleweight champion earns that caliber of I understand a guy like George St. Pierre taking years off and then coming back and immediately fighting Michael Bisping for the title.
Correct.
At 185. Israel taking, more than a year off and then stepping right into a title shot. I don't know.
Especially since you had a TKO loss,
Right.
got it back with a KO finish.
Yes.
But then a bad loss where you actually did not look good at all.
Right.
I don't understand. I understand the star power. Izzy is one of the biggest stars, but so isn't Sean Strickland.
Right.
And he dusted you.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a slight on Sean Strickland to give Izzy the fight against DDP. Although in the defense of the UFC, we all want to see Izzy
Of course
versus
we
DDP.
do. We do.
It was a fight we kind of got robbed of.
I kind of feel stylistically, though, not that excited for it. You know, I feel like DDP has a lot of tools that Israel doesn't. And he'd be smart to just implement a heavy grappling attack.
Although Izzy does
You know?
have in the middleweight division some of the best takedown defense in that division. I don't even know, has anybody taken Izzy down?
Not many people have tried.
Yeah.
I don't feel. You know what I mean? He hasn't faced.
Well, he had Marvin Vittori. He spent
Yeah.
the whole fight trying to take him down. I don't
Yeah.
even know that he was successful in that. The only person I know to take him down repeatedly and keep him there was Jan Blachowicz,
Yeah.
and that's because he didn't take the weight change serious.
Right, and the big size difference.
Yeah.
You know, but Drake is a huge middleweight.
Yes,
You know,
strong, powerful middleweight.
and I would have thought we would have seen him do a lot of wrestling against Strickland, but I think that tells the size and strength of Strickland too. You
Yes.
know, like in
Who also has great takedown defense and grappling ability.
which you don't, you just don't get to see it from guys like that so much. But I don't know. It doesn't get me super excited to see Israel and Dracus du Plessis.
I agree. I think Dracus versus Sean Strickland would have been the fight to make.
That rematch excites me way more.
Way more.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Or Israel versus Strickland
either way.
on the rematch for
And
the
it-
number
and
one
I-
contender fight.
And that's the other thing too. If Robert Whitaker or Chimaev wins, how do you justify giving them a title shot over Strickland?
Yeah, that I don't know how that works.
And if
either.
I'm Strickland, I'm not gonna fight a Marvin Vittori
No.
or a Jarrett Cannonier or the winner of this fight.
maybe Cannonier, because
'Cause he
he's
wants to
still
get it
looming in he had the great performance versus
Yes.
Vittori, still hasn't had an opponent since. Maybe Cannonier, I could justify that, but yeah, I hear you, don't fight backwards.
Yeah,
you know?
because you should be fighting for contention, and you should be the number one contender, and I don't see how any of these guys get the title shot before he gets his rematch.
If Whitaker KOs Hamzat Chimaev, then I could see him getting the jump over Strickland for the title shot.
I would have to agree with that, especially because of the caliber of fighter he is and where he stands. But his last fight against DDP went really badly.
It did.
So that also, I'm like, maybe he turned a corner or something.
Yeah. But it definitely, it's not a bad thing to have too many contenders at the top.
Yeah.
That means the division looks real good.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we'll see how it
they're all
goes out.
exciting fights.
Something a little, I've got to bring it up because it's, UFC news, something that doesn't excite either one of us too much. But Jorge Masvidal has said lately that if Justin Gaethje were to win, he's assuming Justin Gaethje wins this BMF bout, that he thinks that he would dust him in a BMF matchup.
Yeah.
But no one cares about this BMF belt.
No, I don't think anybody really does. It doesn't hold any significance. You never defend it. It's not a thing. It's just to mark maybe that one certain fight.
Correct. And then the other side of it is Gaethje's 155.
Yeah.
You're a welterweight who's not.
Right.
I know people try to say he got fat, but he showed himself he's obviously not fat.
Well,
but
he should be staying in shape. He's got to fight Nate Diaz in a
Correct.
boxing match
But
in June. Right?
I feel like Jorge Masvidal was kind of a big welterweight,
Yeah.
not an extremely big welterweight, but I always thought he was a big welterweight. How are you gonna fight at lightweight?
Well, he used to years ago, but it was a struggle, and
Yeah.
he settled in at 170, and that was definitely the better class
fought
for
at
him.
155?
Yeah, he did, but he was too small and didn't have great success. That's where he got some of his split decision losses and
yeah.
stuff like that. But I don't know. Jorge, just hang it up, man. Like, you're old.
Yeah, get this Nate Diaz
You're
fight
done.
and
Just
be done.
do your boxing thing. You know,
And
like
his
to think that you could compete with a Justin Gaethje right now in the time of, you know, Masvidal's life. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I say KO first round, Justin Gaethje.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's in the prime of his fighting career.
Yeah.
Jorge has proven that he lost a step. Now he's been out 2 years plus. Give me a break.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, fight Nate Diaz and then just focus on your bare knuckle MMA. Like, I'm hoping that
I want to see that
pans
promotion
out.
succeed.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I'm not trying to hate on Masvidal. I'm a huge
He's
fan.
one of my
but
favorites.
I think it's dumb.
He's definitely one of the guys who, when we first started this show a long, long time ago, he was my welterweight favorite.
Yeah, I just think it's dumb when, you know, when you're done past your prime,
Yeah.
retired, to be taking shots at people like, you know.
And some guys who just can't get away
Just
from
saying
the fight.
weird stuff. Yeah, you know.
All right, so this is super weird. Dana White announces a card in the future. I don't know if this was the Perth card or if it's the Whitaker card. I think it's the Whitaker Chimaev card. They announced Volkov versus Pavlovich.
Yeah.
And then Volkov comes out and says, this is not an official fight. Neither one of them have signed a contract. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think they knew about this fight before it got announced. So it's like not this real thing. And that's what's crazy.
Great matchup.
It's a great matchup. But this isn't the first time
Yeah.
two fighters have come out and said, we didn't sign any paperwork.
Crazy. To announce a fight with no guy signing a contract, I don't know how that happens, you know?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, maybe the UFC sent something to either guy's management and they thought they heard back from them.
Yeah.
And
Or
somehow,
I could be wrong about the fact that they have no
or you
idea
just
about the
announce
fight.
it before you know, like, I don't know.
Kind of put them in a corner like, hey, we announced this fight. People want to see
Right.
it. Sign this paperwork. But the UFC is trying to strong arm people into fights. Is that what's going on?
I don't know. That is weird. I like the matchup a lot.
I love the
Yeah.
matchup. I mean, Sergey, you know, he took a L.
Yeah.
He's got to rise back up. I do think this is a slight drop in the talent pool.
Yeah,
But it's
but-
someone he hasn't beat yet.
And Volkov, super, super good.
Yeah.
You know, always just one step away from the top three, honestly.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
And do we get Russia on Russia crime? I mean, I don't know.
I think I don't know. It's good. Yeah, maybe they were just both too far away in Russia and they didn't get the mail. I don't know.
It's a weird thing
It's
to
super
announce a
weird.
fight without having any indication that these two guys are willing to fight, but it is what it is. Something that's been on our minds for a while, and we finally get the answer we deserve, is Talia Santos speaks out on her release from the UFC. So she was very unhappy with the way things were going. Obviously, she had the fight against Valentina Shevchenko, a fight that not only she believes she won, but a lot of us, including myself,
super close.
I don't know your specific opinion on
That's
that.
an either
but
way type of fight.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I thought the ground control and takedowns won her that fight, but the judges decided otherwise, and then she took, in my opinion, once again, another controversial loss to Erin Blanchfield.
Yep.
And then her problem was every time she fought, there was no calendar for the next fight. She was always waiting to fight, where a lot of fighters get to fight a little bit more frequently. And I believe what she's saying is she was trying to fight more frequently, but there were no dates for her to fight, no one for her to fight. And she was getting frustrated, so she fought out her contract, Erin Blanchfield being the last fight on her contract, and then decided not to re-sign.
Yeah.
So where it said that they released her, she fought the last fight on her
Right.
contract and did not want to sign a new
She
contract.
felt like not signing. She doesn't say, you know, money as the reason.
No, it
just
was
that
fights.
the UFC frustrated her.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't book her as often. She wanted to be active, I guess.
They kept telling her that they didn't have dates for her and whatnot, and it's like, you got one of the best fighters in the division wanting to be active.
Yeah.
How do you not get her fights?
Maybe just the lack of character, the lack of a big draw.
Yeah.
They just, she didn't really speak English. They, wasn't talking any kind of crap on the mic. Like, they just want to push the people that people want to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And she's kind of like the back in like the earlier days of Leon Edwards, where
Right.
he wasn't or Kobe Covington.
Right.
They weren't interesting fighters, so they didn't get a lot of UFC love.
but then they push guys like Patty Pimblett.
Yeah. Who gets super fat when they're not fighting
And can barely
win fights.
Barely can beat Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
I
It's a
don't
tough one. So she signs with the PFL. She's got her first fight coming up, I think either this week or next, but she does have a fight coming up.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to see her.
And just more evidence that the PFL can get good fighters on their roster. It's worth watching.
They're getting more and more fighters as the days go on. So we'll see how Talia Santos fares in the PFL. I'm sure she will be the flyweight champion and reign over it.
I would assume.
So then we have Igor Severino, Captain Bite Arm.
I was going to say, I like that.
Yeah.
I wrote Igor Biter Severino.
Yeah, the Biter.
The Biter.
He's pleading for an opportunity, a second chance in the UFC, or I'm assuming he'll take a second chance in any fight.
Mixed martial arts in general, I'm sure.
And I know that there's the fight commission is holding his purse, and he's I don't know how I feel about that situation. He's doing the poor me, this is how I feed my family and buy medicine and all this other stuff, and I don't know how does that work out? How can you hold his money?
Yeah, what I don't understand is it's that's a show purse.
Yeah.
And in your contract it says win, lose or draw, no matter the outcome of the fight, that you show up to fight and participate in the fight, you get that money.
Correct.
So I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think if he fights hard enough with a lawyer, that he'll probably get his show money anyways.
Yeah,
because that's weird.
You get a lawyer. How much was your show money? It was your debut fight. Nobody knows your name.
Yeah.
How much was you actually getting paid for that fight? $10,000.
And what's his future looking like? Is he gonna get another shot anywhere? It's tough to say.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the kid a bit, but it's a heinous foul to just bite a dude on the arm. You can't really say it was anything else except that. You didn't know what the hell was happening and you bit his arm.
That's the problem.
He did take a lot of big shots in the fight.
Yeah.
And I could understand. The only thing that makes sense to me after thinking about it over and over and over is that he's just not really there and he bit down. Not thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not thinking I'm biting a person. Mm-hmm. You're not even making a conscious decision. You just realize it afterwards. You know what I mean? Oh no, I just bit this dude. I totally believe that could be
and
could be
the
the case.
Side of it, he's pleading for his second chance, and he's I'll give him this, and there's no other way to do it than to do this, but he's not making excuses. And he's accepting the fact that what he did was wrong, and that it 100% he deserved to be suspended for what he had did. But the only problem is that he's not giving any explanation and is saying that he doesn't even know what happened.
Because I believe that's the real case. I think he doesn't know. I went to a jiu-jitsu competition with my friend. He was grappling. He was rolling with a guy. He got taken down. Guy was in his full guard, and his face was buried in my friend's chest. And then you hear my friend yell, and then the ref separated him, and he had the same mark on his chest.
Yeah.
And the other guy was completely apologetic, got a DQ, same thing, and he's like, I don't know what happened, bro. He wasn't even hurt. He didn't even take a shot to the head. Just like an instinctual... My face is on some, and he just bit down. He said he couldn't explain it. I don't know why I bit you. I'm so sorry. And, this dude, we saw him take a bunch of shots.
Yeah.
You know?
But he was some would even say that he was winning the fight.
With his clinch work, I think he was turning the tide.
And like, so you're in a fight, and then this
so it's not
happens.
for an advantage.
Yeah.
It's not I'm mad.
He was in the dominant position in the moment.
It's not I'm mad.
Yeah.
It's not to try to get away with something. How do you get away with a bite?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So that's my biggest problem with this situation is that I have a hard time believing that the bite was malicious.
Yeah, I don't think there's any malice in it.
So I think that somehow, some way, whether it's the UFC or the PFL or Bellator, I know they're combined, or some other promotion, no matter what it is, I think a conversation needs to be had because it doesn't make sense that he did this in a manner that was, like we said, malicious or purposeful.
Yeah.
I can't see that. I don't know that he has a fight history and has never done anything remotely close to this.
Yeah, I looked and I mean he's never been disqualified for anything. You know what I mean? Doesn't have a record of doing illegal stuff. Clean fighter, young fighter, fights his heart out. Fought his heart out on the Contender Series.
And he's undefeated.
Yeah,
So
I think,
it's like,
he's in the big show. And, the bright lights. You're at the big time.
Yeah.
And it, took a bunch of shots. Didn't know where he was.
It's
bit
weird.
down.
It's super weird.
It's super weird. But, it's clear disqualification. Correct. I agree with the disqualification. We all agree with that.
And at the very least, a suspension.
And the suspension from the Athletic Commission. It's a tough thing to try to rule about, like, going forward, because, okay, even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, you don't know what you were doing and you did it. Might it happen again? Do you know what I mean? Like,
and do you risk somebody?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that,
can it be allowed to happen as a mistake
and
just
do you
because
set a precedent?
Yeah.
For future, for future disqualifications.
Then what happens when somebody cries wolf, and says that, I don't know what was going on. It just happened.
And it doesn't have to be the same type of disqualifying or releasing penalty where you get released from the UFC. Anything that happens that would cause for a suspension or a release, you could say, you're gonna reference Igor and say you gave him a second chance. Yeah. If you don't give me a second chance, it's discrimination.
So I think unfortunately that would set a bad precedent. So
I think UFC days are done, but maybe another fight. Because even his opponent
depends on the Athletic Commission, because they're the ones that are not going to let him fight as of right now.
Exactly, and even Lima doesn't want him to be suspended.
Right.
So I don't know where we go. I don't know where they go.
Because I think Andre Lima, as a fighter, can understand crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
But
well, we'll see what happens with Igor in the future.
Yeah,
but
I kind of feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him.
It's crazy, but he didn't mean it.
So let's go from this sad event to something that's hilarious.
Okay.
I don't know if you have heard this, and I don't know if you know who she is, but commentator or podcaster, whatever her name is, Sage Steele, she's a podcaster on some network, and she's interviewing Dana White.
Okay.
Says, what does Joe Rogan want for the future?
See the clip. Yeah.
So she thinks in this moment that because she has this weird thing where she has her guest wear matching socks with her, no shoes. That's like her thing. And she thinks the whole time she's talking to Joe Rogan. Yeah. And then when he questions it, she then realizes, wait a minute, I'm talking to Dana White.
And then she was honest about it, though. 100%. Was like, yes, I did this.
She definitely took it on the chin, and that I feel like that saves her.
And Dana took it on the chin, too.
Yeah.
Like,
the
laughed
fact
it
that
off.
He didn't get up and walk out, like...
Yeah, she was better than Howie Mandel then, I guess, right?
This is crazy. Howie Mandel's got to feel some type of way right now.
Right.
Because Dana White's doing... I mean, granted, I don't think this was a podcast per se. I think it was a show because all the socks and stuff, whatever.
Right, yeah.
So I do think it's a show. But
Yeah, she had a whole nice set and
so,
stuff.
but the thing that like I'm like, but all these other podcasts they do the YouTube thing too, so it could be a podcast as well. I'm not really sure, but at the end of the day, if I'm Howie Mandel, like I got a problem.
Right.
I got a real problem with
He
you right now.
introduced him so nice, and this woman calls him Joe Rogan.
Oh.
And she gets a whole interview out of him.
Oh man, that was a tough one.
It looked like he loved it.
Yeah, he thought it was funny. I mean, that's one of the things you gotta love about Dana White is he's just a real dude.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't he takes life seriously, but he doesn't take things too seriously.
And
So,
real dudes have bad days, and maybe Howie Mandel caught him on a bad day.
yeah,
Because
this is true.
I'll walk out of something if I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, especially if you're just not in the mood for it, And when you're someone like Dana White, you can walk off a Howie Mandel podcast and not be too worried.
Yeah.
So, one other thing I just wanted to...
I think we all can
Oh, yeah.
walk off Howie Mandel's podcast and be okay. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I want to be invited on Howie Mandel's podcast just so I can walk off. I'm not famous enough or famous at all to be invited on his show, but if I did, I would love to just do that.
Yeah.
How crazy would it be if that became a thing? People going on his podcast and just walking off, making it so it ain't obvious. Some people doing it right away. Some people waiting 15 minutes.
Because then he would just stop if it was obvious. He'd be like, all right, I ain't inviting nobody.
Exactly. So a couple weeks ago, I meant to mention this last week, but I finally watched the Roadhouse movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor.
I haven't got around to watching it yet. I want to though. I'm gonna watch it.
I will. It's a typical action movie.
Yeah.
I will say, as a fan, an avid fan of the original Roadhouse, I do believe they took it a little bit too far into the action department.
Okay.
But Jake Gyllenhaal's character, I think he played it very well. The only thing I didn't like about Conor McGregor's character is I feel like they wanted Conor McGregor's character to be, the a-hole,
Oh, yeah.
But I think he turned it up a little bit too much. But I mean, if they filmed it and they let it go, I'm assuming that's what they wanted. The extreme, over the top, overly confident a-hole.
Yeah, must be what they wanted.
It had to have been what they wanted. In moments it felt uncomfortable, but I'm not the spoiler guy, but there was a moment at the end of the movie where I felt like Conor McGregor delivered his best acting performance.
Really?
Yeah. He had a moment at the end, and once again, I don't want to spoil anything, but the expression on his face was perfect for what was happening in the moment.
Might be a famous line out of it.
No line.
No line.
No line.
Okay.
It was all in his face. His reaction to something that was happening, and it's the last thing. It's one of the last things you see with him, and I just thought it was perfect. I missed a moment that I saw in the previews, and I got mad because I'm like, did you really put this in the previews and it not happen? When they're in the boat and he's holding the anchor and he's like, looky here, we got our own little octagon. He was like, where did you learn shapes? Something happened and I missed that moment, and I was like,
really?
What? Wait. So I had to rewind it, and I saw it back again.
Oh, okay.
And the way he says things sometimes, it makes you feel a little uncomfortable, but all in all, it was a decent movie. I'm glad I didn't see it in the theater. I got to see it on Prime because they released it on Prime for some reason.
Number one stream movie on Prime, I guess, right now.
It broke records for.
That's just what he does.
Yeah,
it's just what he does.
Everybody
wants to see it.
But it was a relatively.
I want to watch it. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, I recommend it. But make sure you temper your expectations.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much.
Yeah. No, there's no Oscar-worthy performances.
Yeah, I mean, from a movie like that in general, I'm not expecting too much. Like you say, just some action and,
But Jake Gyllenhaal is very good in it. Yeah. I will say that.
I always like Gyllenhaal.
Although somehow he has CIA spy training. I don't know where he gets that from being a UFC fighter. Yeah. But he definitely
he's an ex-UFC fighter.
Yeah, he is an ex-UFC fighter, but somehow that translates into him being also this assassin.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting though. Do you have anything on the other side?
Yeah, I got let's switch up boxing real quick.
Okay.
Sebastian Fundora defeated Tim Tszyu for the WBC and WBO Junior Middleweight Championship,
Okay, that's nice.
which is pretty nice. He's enormously tall, super long, and it sets up some good fights. My favorite boxer to watch is Terrence Bud Crawford, personally, and this could set up a big-time matchup. However, Fundora, took some licks in the fight, got himself a pretty broken nose.
Oof.
Ain't going to be able to compete until November, at least.
All right.
So, maybe we'll hear more about it then. But, up-and-coming rising star there. So, a little love towards the boxing world.
Yep.
Did you hear this about Dominic Reyes? He's finally cleared of life-threatening blood clots.
I actually did see that. Life-threatening blood clots. Yeah.
How do these life-threatening things with these fighters just fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden we hear about it after? Like the thing with Macy Barber last week.
Yeah.
Hospitalized 9 days after
She thought she was dying.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. They don't think that's news to us.
It's news. It's news for us.
Yeah, I think so.
We want to hear about it.
We care about these people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
but we're invested.
But yeah, hopefully he can get back to training soon. But they were life-threatening blood clots, and nobody knew.
Wow. That's crazy.
That stuff.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it made me just think, like, where's, they need a fighters union.
Absolutely.
They need medicine, what's it called? Universal coverage for the people in the organization.
Absolutely.
They need their own health plan. It's messed up.
They need something.
Yeah.
Is that all we have for the news?
Yeah.
There was a boxing match. The Pitbull. He had a fight
Pitbull
recently.
Cruz, did he?
Pitbull Cruz, he won a fight. Someone was telling me about it, and I looked it up, and it was weird because he was rocking this dude, but I watched the highlights. He rocked this dude in 3 or 4 rounds, but didn't in 3 or 4 rounds, but it still made it to the 8th before stoppage. I'm like, how did this dude? The dude he fought was tough.
I watched some highlights of the Fundora fight, and the other guy, Tszyu, got hit with an elbow accidentally, cut his head open and was spurting blood. That was early in the fight, and they both took a lot of damage, and it went to split decision.
Wow.
They fought the whole fight.
Wow.
So they're battered
So
up.
that must have been exciting.
They were beaten up and bloody.
All right, let's get through these. Fight night fights. Blanchfield versus Fiora for the #1 contendership. Starting off in the bantamweight division, Angel Pacheco versus Cadlin Logren.
Kalen Logren. He sharp Irish fighter. Had nice quick hands and looked fundamentally good. Pacheco made a fight of it, but unanimous decision for Logren. He looked pretty good, yeah.
Middleweight division, Andre Petrosky versus Jacob Malkoun.
Crazy one. Petrosky getting boxed out by Malkoun. I thought it would be a wrestling match, and then Petrosky finally decides to wrestle in round 2 and KOs himself.
Puts a head to the thigh.
Yeah, head to the thigh, hip area. It looked like Malkoun might have landed like a jab off the top of his head as he shot in too, but just kind of TKO'd himself. It's
Interesting.
Crazy. Yeah.
Light heavyweight division, fight of the night, Ibo Aslan versus Anton Turkali.
Turkali, yeah. I like this one because these were some young light heavyweights. We haven't seen too many young light heavyweights
not
in a while. And they look good. Turkali looked pretty good. It was pretty even until Turkali pushed too hard in the 3rd round because he thought he was losing and he got knocked out by the big power. Yeah.
That was good strikes. Performance of the night, Denise Buzakaya versus Connor Matthews.
Yeah, this dude's name Bazooka.
Okay.
Yeah, this was another pretty even fight. Matthews fought real well, but Bazooka's power just was telling in the end, And I think it was damage more than anything. I don't think it was that he was really rocked. I think the last punch just hurt the broken nose too much.
Yes. I think that I do remember that. It was definitely damaged.
He fell from the pain. No, I can't take another one to the nose.
All right, featherweight division, Julio Arce versus Gilbert Burns' brother, Herbert Burns.
Yeah,
and this was also a KO.
Yeah, Herbert looked pretty good for a while, a little rusty, had time off from knee surgery, but he was telegraphing his takedown after, like, just throwing a big overhand right, and Arce hit him with a knee that dropped him, made him stand back up, and then just laid punches on him and finished him.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, but Arce missed weight by 1 pound also.
Oh, so good thing he didn't get no bonus.
Yep, a little stain.
All right, in the women's strawweight division, Verna Jandiroba versus Lupi Godinez.
Yeah, run-of-the-mill women's strawweight fight. Verna's never too exciting. It might be snoozer of the night if it wasn't for the dudes led to Chidi and Njokuani.
Yes. Then we got Nate Landwehr versus Jamal Emmers, and this was a great fight.
I love Nate the Train personally.
Yes.
He's loud, boisterous dude. Always puts it on the line.
Absolutely.
He had to weather the storm from Jamal Emmers.
Emmers looked so good.
He was putting it together early. I don't know if he maybe ran out of a little gas, but Nate closed the distance and getting that single collar and shoveling some dirty boxing on him.
And that's where he wanted.
He just made it dirty.
Boxing.
Yeah.
That dirty boxing definitely got him through that fight.
He KO'd him flat, too, at 4 minutes, 43 seconds. So, 17 seconds left in the first round. He KO'd him flat. That was a great fight by Nate the Train. I love that, too.
In the welterweight division, we got Chidi and Njokuani versus Reese McKee.
Reese McKee, yeah, I was loving the accents in his corner, the Irish guys. But, good fight overall, just a little lackluster. Njokuani with the split decision. I kind of thought it should have been unanimous, honestly.
I thought so, too. I thought it was a little weird, yeah.
Just not enough activity from either guy. I thought Njokuani, he probably could have finished him if he just turned it up.
And that's the thing, too. Like, he needs to find that in himself and turn it. Because he's a very good fighter, but I feel like the fights he loses and the decisions that get split are because he's not giving himself enough credit.
And before that, he would, spend his gas tank early and then get finished. But, he's got to find the in-between.
Featherweight division, Bill Algeo versus Kyle Nelson.
This was a fun fight. I always like Bill Algeo. He's got, karate style with a lot of movement. Too much movement in this fight.
Yeah.
Kyle Nelson pinpointed him, found him at the end of every shot. I mean, he was piecing him up the whole first round. Yeah. A little early on the stoppage, probably. I think Algeo had a little more in him, but 4 minutes into round one, Kyle Nelson with the TKO. That was nice.
All right, and then we have terrible reffing of the night, middleweight bout. I'm not saying Ruzabov.
Yeah, Nursultan Ruzaboev
versus Serkis Dumas.
Cedricus Dumas. This would be the first fight ended by eye poke of the night. Nursultan with the big hype up because he got like 40-something fights and he just made it to the UFC.
Yep.
About 30-something years old, but
big, tall guy.
He looked pretty good.
Like he was like 6'3".
Both of them big middleweights.
Yes.
I don't remember seeing Cedricus before either.
But I remember seeing Cedricus at least once.
Okay.
I don't remember how the fight went, but I do remember seeing him fighting in the UFC.
Nursultan had the jab working. It looked like Dumas was trying to close the distance but couldn't really get inside. But we didn't see much because a big eye poke.
Eye poke that made him bleed.
Yeah, Cedricus. I think the biggest problem was with that ref was that he didn't even acknowledge.
Yeah,
like he covers his eye. He didn't react right away.
Correct.
When it's like a delayed reaction. I think it was after he blinked.
Yeah.
But the finger goes into the middle knuckle, and then you see him blink. Then he goes, "Oh man!" and he put his hand up to the ref. Ref didn't even acknowledge it, and Ruzaboa swarms in and just finishes him. He had to just cover up.
Well, I hope he does appeal
terrible
because this is a terrible
It's a direct
stoppage.
result from the eye poke.
Yes.
You see him turning away and he's just eating shots and terrible decision by the ref.
And if you have one, why not have two? Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva ends in what was called a TKO and then changed to a decision. But 4 eye pokes from Chris Weidman.
Yeah, 4 total. 2 of them that
in the one exchange.
2 of them from the that was stopped early in the fight, and they gave Bruno Silva 2 different times to rest. And then the finish of the fight, he hits him with a 1-2 eye poke, and then a little blooper of a shot over the ear.
And it was crazy too, because it was. I mean, if you've seen us on camera and not listening to the podcast, it was 2 hands, pointed fingers poked to opposite eyeballs. Yeah. Like, I don't understand this.
And then it follows with a little hook that grazes his head, and it looks like he might have fell from the punch in real time, but not really. You could see in slow-mo he's already turning away and covering his eyes.
In Weidman's defense, I do agree that Bruno Silva was trying to go for an Oscar. Yeah. You cannot. Chris Weidman said this, and this is the part I have to agree with him. You cannot drop to the ground like that.
No, you can't. You can't just fall face first and expect a guy not to try to finish you off. But look at what Cedricus Dumas tried to get the ref's attention and couldn't. I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy thing. Yeah,
it is a crazy thing.
It's definitely on Bruno Silva to protect himself in that situation and not get finished.
Correct.
So I don't know. That's a tough one.
Bruno is trying to get the decision overturned to turn to a no contest, which I believe is fair and is what should happen. I did see that it is 100% that if you fight to a certain time frame, that they can judge the fight. And to Chris Weidman's credit,
yes,
he was winning that fight very well.
I agree.
We saw some vintage Chris Weidman in this fight,
which is unfortunate, because I do think the fair thing is to probably go no contest.
Yes.
Because the rules say that if they fought that long, you can go to the cards, and that's really up to the judges and the referee together. Correct. I guess, but I just don't see that. Bruno Silva was coming on strong, and he did have over 3 minutes left in that final round.
Correct.
He is a knockout artist. It's
it's a tough one.
He did have a good chance to come back in that fight. Was he losing the fight? I do agree. He was losing in the fight.
And to my surprise, Chris Weidman looked great. He wasn't afraid to throw the leg kick, threw it right away, early and often.
He was mixing it up good. Yeah, he looked good.
So he did look good, although 4 eye pokes in one fight.
That's a problem.
That is a big problem.
You can't fight like that with your fingers out.
And a lot of people are saying home field advantage because it was in New Jersey and he's a New Jersey kid, and they like maybe giving him a little leeway. But second eye poke should have been, if not a point, a hard warning.
Now my thing that I wonder about too is, okay, so you acknowledge the eye pokes that finished the fight because you changed it from TKO to a unanimous decision. That's the 4th eye poke, and you're acknowledging that it's the 4th eye poke.
Correct.
He doesn't get any points taken away? Does that not affect the decision? I mean,
and I would say, wouldn't it be 2 points, making it, and then so you take those 2 points away. I don't know if you can call a winner of the 3rd round. You could say he won the 1st and 2nd, but because of that, if say you give Bruno the 10, and now he's got a 10-7. Right. That's a majority draw.
Right.
So
I don't know how they're going to decide. It's going to take a little litigation there. Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, at the very least, it has to be a no contest. And I mean, I don't know if you run it back, because I feel like Chris Weidman proved he could beat Bruno Silva.
I do agree, and but I just think I hope that we get more conversation about a glove change with the UFC.
Yeah. All right, and so we have Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley, and another weird situation.
It's a strange one, right? Vicente Luque losing by TKO in the 2nd round, 3 minutes 17 seconds, but he before he gets finished, he seemed to pull guard.
Well, my
on a failed takedown attempt.
It was I feel like it was a failed takedown attempt, and I think Joaquin Buckley's size and forward movement, I think it was driving him back, so he pulled guard because he was already going back.
But then turtles up?
Not only does he turtle up, he doesn't actually pull him into his guard.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we all know the UFC is getting really strict on, like, not letting guys lay and pray.
Yeah.
Wrap him up and hold him down. Make the ref stand you up.
Well, and, I mean, Luque had a high-level black belt, too. Like, I mean, he might have had the better groundwork. That was strange.
And some
didn't try to
say
push him off.
Maybe he was hurt, and he pulled guard, and then Joaquin Buckley laid on some strikes, and he just turtled up.
Here's the thing that I seen that I found pretty strange. Joaquin Buckley came out with a video on his Instagram. He felt weird because after he got checked out after the fight, he went to go check on Vicente, and he saw James Krause handing him a slip of paper and said, "Good job," to Vicente Luque. Joaquin Buckley's not trying to claim anything, but he says he feels real weird about it and it's bothering him. A betting
Anytime
slip?
you see Krause now.
A betting slip?
Yeah.
A thrown fight? On that level?
On that level.
Oh my God.
And why would you associate yourself with Krause at this point? I wouldn't. As a UFC fighter, I don't want any ties to that dude.
I don't know. Strange.
That is strange.
And you're on a losing streak?
Yeah.
Get a good check? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's terrible. Buckley definitely was the underdog. With a bet on him, you could win some big money.
Especially a finish.
Yeah.
And the round, if you call the round, and the finish on an underdog, that's a tough one.
We'll keep you posted on that.
All right, main event, women's flyweight division, number 2 ranked versus number 3 ranked, Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot. And Manon Fiorot was just completely dominant.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Just far better striker, far better footwork, way too strong physically.
Way too strong. I mean,
Blanchfield looked little.
Not only did she look little, she looked like the little sister getting beat up by the big sister.
Yeah.
She couldn't get inside. She couldn't make anything work. Every once in a while, she'd land punch 3 or 4, but really couldn't find an answer for that distance.
And the strength. I mean, yeah, the straight punches, the distance, and Manon was just that much better. And how long we been saying Fiorot when they kept calling her Fior? I'm like, what? How long we been saying her name wrong?
I don't know.
They all said Fior. Yeah, they never know their name until like a year or 2 after they're in the UFC.
They still say,
and then they'll say it right.
They still say Israel Adesanya, and he says it's Adesanya.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the only ones who say it right.
I've heard it on like 2 other podcasts.
Really?
That say it correctly.
Okay.
Because they've heard it as well, and they care, about actually respecting a person.
That's crazy. All right, so before we get out of here, just real quick, we have the fight night Saturday, April 6th, 6 p.m., and Brandon Allen versus Chris Curtis 2. Brandon Allen trying to get it back.
Yeah.
Says it's a fluke. Yeah. Brandon Allen's been looking real good lately.
Yeah, and I don't really like Chris Curtis. I think Brandon Allen takes this. It looks like an overall decent card. I want to see Jermaine Durandamy, her return.
I want to see her return.
Dumont.
That's 100%. Also, the return, I would guess you'd call it with the return of Cynthia Calvillo. Mm-hmm. She was once a very big prospect.
Yep.
And somehow just, kind of, lost some fights and went away.
And before we run out of time, I want to talk about ONE FC. Got a big day tomorrow. They got 2 events on tomorrow night. They're running the Friday night fights at Lumpini Stadium again. They got the kickboxing strawweight world championship on the line, Jonathan Davila versus Prajan Chai, and the featherweight kickboxing championship with Super Bond. This dude's like one of my favorite kickboxers in the world, versus Marat Grigorian. That is on pay-per-view, actually, on the watch.onefc.com app. And then we have Fight Night, Ursul versus Nicholas on Prime. And that we need to watch, I think.
Okay.
We got submission grappling with Cade Ruotolo, and his brother Ty Ruotolo is defending his belt versus Isaac Mitchell.
The twin brothers, right? Yes.
And
I want to watch this event.
we got the lightweight kickboxing world champion. He's also the middleweight kickboxing world champion, Reagan Ersal versus Alex Nicholas. It's going to be a good main event. Pretty serious.
Well, let's get on that. We'll make sure we watch it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you tonight. It's been a great week, and hopefully the fights this weekend will not disappoint. And until then, we'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Peace.